charges. Now, what you're going to see today is we are not going to get specific as to who are these victims. Who are the victims? We do know we have victims out there. We do know, and Detective Alexander explained, we do know that there are other victims out there, and it is our plea today, for those victims, the other victims out there, to please reach out to us so we can conduct a further investigation. To my left here is Sharik Abdul Aghani, who is representing here the Muslim community, and he will be here to answer questions for you as well. But again, I couldn't be more proud of the fact that we were able to take Mr. Ali into custody without incident. And I'm going to leave it now to Mr. Alexander, but I want to say this. There's an issue here because I have discovered that, there has been a deportation order for Mr. Ali. There's been a deportation order. And I'm thinking, well, what is he even doing here, right? If we do have a deportation order, I'd like to ask, why is he still here? If he's here and he's here illegally and he's supposed to be deported, then why hasn't he been taken into custody and removed from this country? But I will now leave this up to Mr. Alexander, and if you have any questions, he would be the gentleman that could answer those questions.
Morning. In the process of this investigation, we learned that there are 4 victims that we are currently charging Mr. Ali for. One is aggravated sexual assault of a child under 14, and the other 3 are indecency with the child. During this investigation, we know factually that there are other victims, and we are asking that they do come forward, regardless of cultural stigma or any other obstacles that they view in their way. We'll do everything in our power to make sure that we protect their identities, and we're asking for the community to also assist us with that. That's it. Y'all have any questions?
How did this originate? Were you contacted by victims or alleged victims?
We have been contacted by another agency, as well as some victims themselves also reach out to us.
Are the victims from Fort Bend County or Harris County?
We believe there are victims in both areas. The victims that we're dealing with right now are in Fort Bend, which is why we're handling it, but we do believe there are victims in both Harris and Fort Bend.
The other agency was FBI?
Yes, that's correct.
Did he meet his victims through the religious capacity?
We do believe that he's been to several of the victims' homes. It's part of what he does. He goes to people's homes and teaches Quran lessons. And that's how he comes in contact with a lot of people, through some of the mosques. And then he eventually goes to their homes.
And then sort of lures in the children that way?
No, he's hired to teach lessons to those children.
Sorry. Once he visits the home, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Was he associated with any particular mosque, or he was kind of in a different mosque? Was he employed or?
Well, I've been advised that he was not officially employed by those mosques. However, he was there to lead several prayers and other things at those mosques.
Kind of volunteer?
I'm sorry?
Is it a volunteer service he was doing, or?
I don't have the answer to that question.
If I may? Mr. Mohamed Ali was... Mr.
Stand up here so you can
Yeah, Mr. Mohamed Ali did not have any employment or official volunteer capacity within any of the mosques in Fort Bend County. As the detective and Sheriff Nels had said, he would visit different homes and teach Quran. Essentially, we'd call him a freelancer. He was looked at as a religious leader, possibly by his victims. But as far as the Muslim community, he is unknown to us. Can you state your name, please?
My name is Sharik Abdul Ghani.
How did he gain the trust to go to these people's homes, and if he wasn't actually affiliated specifically with any mosque or any religious organization?
It is our understanding that he has a very fluent understanding of the Quran, and he's very fluent in Arabic, which makes him an ideal teacher to teach Arabic and the Quran itself.
So how did he kind of solicit himself?
I would refer that question over to Sheriff Nels.
Yeah. Let me say this, is that we have been conducting surveillance on him. We arrested him at a local restaurant, but we arrested him after he left the mosque at 6 in Bissonnette. or BeachNet here in Fort Bend County. So, Mr. Ghani, what we're trying to do is this. The focus is on other victims and children that are out there. And this can be a very sensitive subject because there's a lot of talk out there and a lot of misunderstanding. I mean, you will hear, they will tell you that if a child in the Muslim community is assaulted in any way sexually, that may be considered unclean. And will that child be able to get married in the future? Now, Mr. Ghani and I are here to work with the community to try to convince the victims that are out there to please come forward, reach out to the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, because you are a victim. And quite honestly, I don't care what religious affiliation you are, and I don't care if I offend you, honestly. Our focus now are the children, right? Religious affiliation, I don't care, and neither does Detective Alexander, or I think anyone else that is viewing. If you are a victim of a crime specifically related to sexual assault of a child, and Mr. Ali, the cases that we have, if they are proven in a court of law, I hope you go to prison for 50 years, right? I'm not going to bring religious affiliation into this and say, well, there's an excuse for this or that. Forget it. We will treat this case as any other case, and we've done this for 7 years. And we're not going to make this case any different because this is a religious leader in the Muslim community. That worship, yes.
Are these mostly Somali victims?
With Mr. Ali is, no, we're not going to get into that. All I do know is he is Somali. So not saying that all the victims are or are not, and quite honestly, that I don't care either. A child is a child.
You mentioned that there was already a deportation order. Is there any clue how we escaped the expedition?
Kumar, we've been talking about our immigration policies for years, and I will just say this, they're broken. Our immigration policies in this country are broken. There are many people that are here that maybe are not documented or are here illegally, but are they out there committing sexual assault and violating our children? I don't think so. This individual here had a deportation order.
When was that order issued?
That I don't know. That'd be a good question for the FBI. But all I do know is that if we have individuals in this county that are committing horrific crimes, felonies against children in this county, we are doing everything we can in our power to place them into custody and then having an ICE hold placed on them. Because what that does now, Kumar, is that he's not going to be released from custody. I don't care what type of an attorney he gets. It doesn't matter. There is an ICE hold on him. Once he faces these charges and then it's all finished up, then he will be taken into custody wherever, and then he will be deported. And I think that's the way it should be. But the real question is, if there was a deportation order on him, why was he placed into custody months ago or maybe even years ago? Because he came into Fort Bend County in 2013.
Sharik, I was wondering, culturally speaking, is it going to be difficult to convince other victims to come forward? You know, is this something that is going to be a barrier to helping law enforcement, or is this like just anybody else's culture just coming forward?
Sir, I think just like in anybody else's culture, victims of sexual assault, sexual violence, of abuse, always find it hard to come forward. And as a member of the Muslim community, I hope that if there are victims out there in any community, in our community, in the Christian community, in the Jewish community, in any other community, for them to come forward and to reach out to law enforcement. Our community is cooperating fully with Sheriff Nels and the investigation that's led by his detectives. And we would ask anyone who has information about Mr. Ali to come forward and to please cooperate with the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office.
A good question would be to Mr. Alexander, since he's been investigating this for 5-6 months. How has the investigation gone so far? I mean, how?
The investigation originally started off a little bit slow due to a lack of cooperation from some of those same victims we're referring to because of that stigma. Moving forward, we did find that there are some people that are willing to come forward, which is why we're here.
How far back do these crimes span? Do we know?
To 2013.
2013.
the ones that we're aware of here in Fort Bend County.
And the victims are all females, all boys, or both?
I'm not going to answer that question. They were all juveniles at the time.
So this case stretches back 7 years?
The allegations, yes.
And you're certain there's more victims, or you believe there's more?
I'm certain there are more victims.
How concerning is it when you hear that somebody, in any capacity, sort of gains the trust and does harm to children?
It's very concerning. We work closely with the child advocates. We always want to make sure that any child that something's happened to has a voice, and that we can bring justice to that child, make sure that they can heal, move forward with their lives.
Though he was not associated, employed anywhere, but was he regularly visiting a particular mosque?
There's a list of mosques that he regularly attended in the Fort Bend and Harris County areas, which is why we're reaching out to make sure that all those mosques and schools, there's also a school, that those children and the parents of those children are aware, and they can sit down with their children and have a conversation about if something's happened to them, particularly with him.
Can you make that list available?
Would you release the list of mosques that he visited?
Well, what we're going to do is just understand that the victims that are out there, we'll do everything we can to not release their identity. I mean, they can come in total confidence and talk to us without releasing their identity at all. And that's going to be important in this case. That's going to be very, very important. I mean, if this is a religious leader, obviously there may be some apprehension out there. I mean, thinking to myself, how does this work in the Muslim community in Islam? So I appreciate the fact that Mr. Ghani is here. Appreciate your comments about saying, hey, the victims that are out there, please work with us, because these are innocent children, people. Innocent children. And I think Mr. Ghani agrees with me. We don't care what rank you are in any religious affiliation, this and that. You need to pay for those crimes. You need to pay for those crimes. And we'll stop at nothing to continue to investigate this. But we need the public's help. We need those that are out there that if your child was a victim to something, Mr. Ali, you please need to reach out to us. You can call 281-342-4665. And this man here, Detective Alexander, will reach out to you and we'll coordinate a visit, right? We are here to help you. We are not the bad guy. We don't have pitchforks and horns, right? There's a lot of people still in this country that really don't trust law enforcement, trust the police. But I can assure you, our best interests, your best interests are important to us. We want to help you, and we're going to do everything we can to do that and keep your identity anonymous.
You should also make it clear that this is a nationwide thing. He's traveled from other states inside the United States before 2013, and there may be allegations that stretch back before then that we're not personally aware of. But he has taught and been to other mosques before he was here in Fort Bend County.
When you mentioned schools, they are all associated with the mosque, private schools or public schools?
There are schools that would have teachings that are related to the Quran.
Oh, okay.
Did you say he was arrested upon leaving a local mosque?
He was in the area. He was at a restaurant very close by the mosque.
But 6 and Bissonnet, that's a mosque.
Six in BeachNet.
Beachnet?
Where did he work? Do we know?
Where does he work?
Yeah. Was he employed?
That's a very complex question. I don't know that we'll get into that today.
We don't have his tax returns. Okay.
But he would find jobs through his connections within the mosque, within the schools.
For the teaching, correct.
For the teaching. Did he have other employment other than teaching?
I would say yes.
Can you tell us what that was?
I'm not going to get into that.
Was it dealing with children?
No, not to my knowledge.
Is he alone or has he a family? Has he got a family?
Yes.
Were all of the children victimized through a grooming process, or were any of them sort of more or less attacks? Or was it all? Did he groom all of them? If you're able to comment.
Well, I think if you kind of break it down, I guess you could say it was all through grooming, but he was invited to a lot of these places by the parents, and that's kind of how we ended up here. There's definitely some grooming. I'm not going to say there's never anything spontaneous about what he's done, but most of it I would say is probably through grooming.
Did he go through religious leaders to get to the parents, or did he just talk directly to the parents and
I would imagine that may vary based on case by case. There's going to be sometimes he's going to communicate with the parent and schedule something to go over there, and other times parent probably approached him based on his ability to teach.
Would you say there's a nationwide effort to find other victims? I mean, is this...
It should be. It definitely should be.
Are there other states specifically we should mention, or?
At this time, I'm not going to answer that question. There are other states that we have specifically, but I don't think I'm going to narrow that down just yet.
So how do you handle that? Do you leave that to the FBI to spread the word across the nation, or how do you get the word out to other states?
Well, we can call it the sheriff's office and other police departments in those areas and make them aware and have them spread that word amongst those communities. That's also something that Mr. Ghani would be able to help us with.
In addition, initially we spent some time with the FBI on this. So, Dave, we will continue to work with outside agencies, federal agencies like the FBI, if this results in investigations in other states. Of course, we'll reach out to our federal partners, as we have for the past several years, to identify those victims if there are victims in other states. Anything else? I would just finish and say, Mr. Ghani, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your plea to the parents of the Muslim community that if they have a child that was, I want to say they use the word assaulted by Mr. Ali, that you don't have to keep that a secret. Don't keep it a secret. You have to do what's in the best interest of your child. Put your religious affiliation away, folks, and do what's in the best interest of your child and reach out to us. So I want to thank you for that, Mr. Ghani and Detective Alexander. And we will keep you all posted as this investigation continues, and this is going to be a long investigation, and hopefully I'll be hearing that we'll be receiving some phone calls, specifically Detective Alexander, from other victims, because we will work very closely with those victims, and it will be a top priority for this office. All right? I'd like to thank you all for being here. Thank you. Sure. Here, you can give him this so he can, Kumar needs to write that down.